Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Sunbelt Baseball Podcast with Matt and Coach Ty Harrington. Ty, it's good to see you, man. We're in the middle of April now, so we're in the grind. Still a little bit too early to be thinking about the tournament, but it'll be here before you know
It will be, and I got to be honest with you. The wording you use in the middle of the grind is about right. Because if you called every head coach on a Monday, which is historically their day off, and you spoke to them, they would just be almost exhausted sounding because it is that time of the grind. And whether you came off a great weekend or whether you came off a hard weekend, those Mondays, I mean, you're just a little exhausted and tired, and then you wake up Tuesday morning, or I'm sorry, you wake up in the middle of the night Tuesday morning at about 1 a.m. and all of a sudden you go, hey, I got to get ready for Tuesday game again. And here we go. And so,
it.
but it is a grind. It's been fun. And we are headed down the second half of the season and the second half of conference.
Yep, coming up here in episode 2, we're going to talk to Georgia Southern head coach Rodney Hennon. What a great week they had this past week. We're going to talk about those Louisiana Raging Cajuns, man. They are on quite a roll. They have the longest winning streak in the nation. And as you mentioned, we're headed towards the halfway point. This weekend marks the halfway point of conference play in Sunbelt. And we'll name our Sunbelt starting 9 for the week. Man, it doesn't get any easier each week, Coach.
It does. It's crazy. And we get a chance to visit with Rodney, and I'll say this in preface of that coming out. He truly has always been an unbelievable coach, right? I
Oh,
mean, and his record speaks for itself, and the success he's had at Georgia Southern and the different things he's been able to accomplish throughout all of his career, by the way, as a coach. But he, like almost every one of the coaches, if not all the coaches involved in the Sun Belt, he is truly one of the great gentlemen that you'll meet in your lifetime as a
no doubt.
person. And,
No doubt.
we had Matt Degg last week, Matt, the same way. Matt's one of the great people you'll meet in your life, too. And Rodney, no different. But if you just want to sit down and have a conversation with a gentleman, he's truly one of those guys you can just talk about anything with, and he'll make you feel good about walking out of the conversation. You feel like you've had a great day.
I know you've known him a long time, and so have I from different perspectives. You were a rival coach. You played against him, competed against him. I've always approached it from the play-by-play standpoint, but, he's going to end up being here in not too short a time, the all-time winningest coach in Georgia Southern history, which is going to be quite an accomplishment because he'll pass Jack Stallings, who's in the College
Yep.
Baseball Hall of Fame, and
Yep.
took him to the
I think
World
that
Series.
speaks volumes about Rodney Hennon,
Yeah,
that
no doubt
statement you
about it.
just made.
Yep. We'll be talking to him coming up here shortly. Story number 1 for the week remains the Raging Cajuns, Coach. Their winning streak is now 15 games. That's 11 straight in the Sun Belt. They're now 11-1 in the Sun Belt. They already have a 3-game lead on Southern Miss and Georgia Southern, who are in second place right now. They've swept their last 3 Sun Belt series at home against Old Dominion and ULM and on the road at Texas State. They actually opened conference play with a loss against Arkansas State on the road and then won 2 in Jonesboro. But they're 24-8 overall, Coach. They're now just 6 wins away from 30 already, and we haven't even hit the midway point of April.
I had a chance. I had them last weekend, and they were on fire. I mean, everything that they, typical Matt Degg. You never know what you're going to get. You never know from an offensive perspective. When you least doubt that something's going to happen, it happens when he's running the third base box, meaning, between squeezes and hit and runs. But this year, power. They've got a lot more power in their lineup this year, and they don't run as much as what you would historically think of one of his teams. But they're still in that. They'll drag bunt. And they'll still do some other things to create some motion in their offense. But the other piece of it for them, as opposed to maybe even a year ago and the year before, is their pitching is been really good. The starting pitching has been good, and then their relief pitching has been, unbelievable as well. And so you're right. I think not only are they the story in the Sun Belt, I think they're one of the top stories in the country right now. What they've been able to do with the win streak, how they're doing it, and the type of team that he has. I think it's a big story national wise for college baseball.
Playing like a bunch of savages, as Coach Deggs likes to say. And they host Marshall this weekend. So that'll be interesting. Big story number 2, Georgia Southern. And we're going to go into more detail with that when we talk to Coach Rodney Hennon in a few minutes. But, started the week with a run rule loss at College of Charleston. And then they get a big shutout win in Columbia against the South Carolina team that was ranked 22nd in the nation. And then they sweep 3 from Georgia State. We know that's just a big series unto itself from a rivalry standpoint. But, that's a 5-game week, and 2 of their 3 wins in the Georgia State series came in their final at-bats, scoring the winning runs in their final at-bats in the 9th and 1 in the 8th.
Well, I want to back into. I lost you just briefly for a second, but I want to say a couple things about the week for Georgia Southern, and the Tuesday game they get beat up, and all those things that can happen in college baseball, but I got to be honest with you, for them to come back on a Wednesday and throw a shutout. I mean, and knowing
On a staff day, too. A staff day, too.
You're piecing it together. Now, having said that, there's been a handful of times in my career where we sketched out 9 innings and each guy got 1 inning. And what it does do is it creates confusion for the opposing team's hitters as long as your pitchers go in there and throw strikes because they never see the same thing twice. And so it can, as long as everybody performs or executes, it does make it tough on the opposing team hitter. But to me, beyond that part of it, for them to lose on a Tuesday like that, come back on a Wednesday and throw a shutout, and then head in against your rival on a weekend, grab some momentum off that Wednesday into that rival, and as you mentioned, to win on your 2 of the games in the latter part of the game, your last at bat in one of them, and next to last in the other. I mean, that's pretty impressive, but I think also speaks about his team's personality as well as the personnel, but his team's personality.
Yeah, story number 3, we had 2 other sweeps in the conference this past weekend. James Madison, what a crazy hitting team. There's just a hitting machine kind of team here. They took 3 from App State, another big offensive team. And Troy swept Arkansas State, getting a walk-off in the series finale on Sunday to complete the sweep.
Yeah, and when you go in there and you look at the runs scored for them, I think Troy scored 35 runs on the weekend. JMU scored 32. And I had a chance to watch James Madison a little bit a couple weekends ago when they played. First time I really got a chance to watch them play some. And they are offensive. And obviously these kinds of numbers from those 2 teams are going to show that their ability to win. It's just not easy to sweep. It's just not. I mean, it's hard regardless of who you're playing. You have to be playing so good to win 3 games in a row, unlike Lafayette is 15. Well, 3 games in a row in a college weekend, in a Sun Belt weekend, because the Sun Belt is so tough and competitive.
Yeah, the Dukes are 19-12 overall. They're 6-6 in the Sun Belt, but they still have the second best RPI in the conference. It's in top 30 territory. We'll talk more about that when we hit the latest RPI coming up here in just a few moments. But they're a team to not be forgotten when we start talking about postseason consideration. And still a lot of baseball to go, but they're in a good spot as we approach the halfway point. There were 3 other teams that won their series. Coastal Carolina took 2 out of 3 from Old Dominion, got another great start from their freshman Sunday starter, Cameron Flukie, who's gone 10 scoreless innings now. Hurd got great pitching. They went 2-1 against Texas State. We had a complete game shutout, a 9-inning complete game shutout. We never see that anymore. And then the Golden Eagles ended up taking 2 out of 3 at South Alabama over the weekend as well.
Yeah, and all those competitive games of series, even some of the. Now, I'll go back and I can't wait to talk to Gary at some point, Coach Gilmore at some point. Their offensive numbers are through the roof. I mean, you go in there and you start digging in there, the number of homers. They got guys with, double-digit
Beach and
homers.
Barthol and all those guys, yeah.
I mean, and just, hitting almost 310 as a team in college baseball, that's hard to do. And nowadays, and I mean, I'm anxious to see, his response and what he thinks, because one thing about Coach Gilmore is if you ask him a question, he's going to give you his opinion and his thought about it, and it's not going to be
Yeah.
fluffy. It's not going to be
No, it's
fuzzy,
not.
warm feelings. It's not. It's going to be what it is. I mean, the guy's one of the all-time greatest coaches in college baseball, and part of it is because he's honest with himself and everybody around him, and so it'll be anxious to see how it is. And the thing is this weekend that would be interesting about Coastal and Georgia Southern, and with them playing each other, is it is a really offensive Coastal team, and I think when you go in and look at Georgia Southern, their starting pitching is pretty good. So who gives and what gives this weekend in that weekend series?
That's a great observation on that. So that's going to be interesting. We'll be talking to Gilly. Rest assured, we'll be talking to Gilly here sooner than later as we go through our Sun Belt podcast every week. All right, standings. We told you Louisiana's on top. They're 11-1, and then you got Southern Miss and Georgia Southern. They're tied for second now at 8-4. You got Coastal, Troy, and Georgia State knotted up at 7-5, and then you really get into a quagmire. It gets bunched up in a hurry, and you got three teams down at the bottom got some work to do in ULM, Arkansas State, and South Alabama. So RPI, Coastal is at 22. That's number one. James Madison's at 25 as we start this week. Southern Miss 44, Georgia Southern 49, Louisiana 52, and Old Dominion's at 55. So those are really the teams that right now, if the season started today, or postseason started today, and it doesn't, but if it did, those would be the teams that are in the conversation, I think.
Yes, most definitely. When you start digging into the RPI and the value of it, and sometimes the personality of the selection committee values it more than others, that always comes into play. But with the past history of the last couple of years with the Sun Belt and what the Sun Belt's been able to do with the number of teams they put in the postseason into the NCAA is always, you think, can and will and should play in the mind. But then also, so a lot of those teams that you just described in that top 55 are going to go play some other teams, and they're going to trade values with the other teams in the Sun Belt for the positive side of it. And it'll help them, and it'll help the Sun Belt all overall, I think. And so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the second half of conference, there's a lot to it. Staying healthy and being able to play, like you've been able to play, and being able to win on the road becomes huge, because it is hard to win on the road in the Sun Belt.
Before we bring Rodney in here, let me ask you one last question in regard. And again, to me, it's never too early to talk NCAA tournament stuff, because that's where all the really fun stuff and conversation is. But how about the success the Sun Belt's had? Not just getting 4 teams in, but teams have been able to make runs and make pushes. And Southern Miss has had back-to-back supers, and Louisiana pushed Texas A&M to the brink, and Georgia Southern hosted a couple of years ago, and Troy's had some success, and South Alabama nearly won a regional at Florida a couple of years ago. How much does that play into when the committee sits down and looks at, well, this team, they get in, and not only do they get in, we don't have any 2-and-outs here. We have teams making pushes to the finals and maybe even winning regionals.
No, it's huge. No, it's huge because, like I said, the history of what you do as a conference comes into play. They can take the RPI and say, okay, this is what it is. But then if you go out and you play in those regionals and you don't do well, they take that into consideration the next year. Well, maybe it wasn't as what we think, or whatever that might be, but that's not the case for the Sun Belt. They've been able to defend their multiple teams, meaning they've gone out and they've got history of doing good. So when the committee does sit down, they can defend themselves by saying, hey, look what these guys did. They make it, Louisiana made a great run. Coastal made a great run. Coastal's a former national champion. There's a lot of different things that you can drop into that, discussion bucket that all adds to the positive of what the Sun Belt has done and what they're about to do.
So stick around. We got the Sun Belt starting 9 coming up. That's going to come up right after this interview, right after we talk to Rodney Hennon. Time now to bring in Georgia Southern baseball coach Rodney Hennon. Coach, thanks a lot for being with us this week.
Well, appreciate you having me on, Matt. It's always good to see you and Ty, and get a chance to talk baseball.
We're excited about it, and what a crazy week for you guys. You start with a run rule loss at College of Charleston. Not exactly the way you want to start a 5-game week.
No.
But then you head north, get an 8-0 shutout of South Carolina on their home field, come home and sweep 3 games from the Georgia State Panthers on your home field, and now you're in second place in the Sun Belt Conference. What a crazy week. How can you predict that?
Well, you can't, that's for sure. But, anytime, and Ty knows he's been there, anytime you've got a 5-game week, that's always a challenge. And certainly it did not get off to a good start over in Charleston on Tuesday. But, really proud of the resilience of this team. And I think it speaks to the character of our kids and the leadership that we have in the locker room to be able to bounce back the way that we did on Wednesday on the road at South Carolina. A huge win for our team, and we really needed that, to get some momentum back heading into a big series this past weekend with Georgia State, another quality team, and we were in 3 battles over the weekend, and very fortunate to come out on top.
Coach, you're obviously with that kind of week, and you guys have been playing better overall anyway. What has been the difference for you guys over this past week and over the last month or so that you guys are playing better?
Yeah, well, I think with this team, one thing that's been fairly consistent throughout the year, our starting pitching has been pretty consistent. Those guys, we've got some experience there, some guys that have been doing a good job in that role. Early on, we had some struggles in the bullpen, but I think now we got a better feel for how we want to use some of those guys. The roles are a little more defined, and some guys have really stepped up excuse me, in the bullpen to complement our starters. And in terms of our lineup, if you look at our lineup, we're really playing on an everyday basis with 6 new players that are playing for the first time here on a regular basis. Outside of Blancato, Brown, and J.D. Kaiser, the rest of those guys are playing every day for the first time. So early in the year, we're shuttling guys in and out, trying to still figure some things out. We had a few guys that got off to a little bit of a slow start, and here of late we've been able to settle on a lineup and be pretty consistent with that. I think everybody, when they show up at the ballpark, has a better understanding of their role, and I think that always helps.
Yeah, 2 of your new guys in particular, Josh Tate, who transferred from Georgia, played his freshman year there, but didn't play a whole lot. He's leading you with a .349 average, 45 hits, 6 doubles, 14 RBI, leads you in on-base percentage. And then Kent Schmidt, who's actually from my school district up here in Atlanta, went to Pope High School, and a true freshman, batting .330, 10 doubles, homer, and 15 RBI. That's 2 newcomers, and you had to replace a lot of experience off of last year's team, and a lot of experience, not just last year's team, but the team that was part of that NCAA regional host team 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think we felt like going into the season, coming out of the fall and the preseason, Josh, looked like he was going to be an everyday guy, and he's been in that leadoff spot all year. We felt like Kent was going to be a really good player for us and have a chance to contribute this year. I don't know that we knew that he would be, playing every day and hitting in the middle of the order, like he is right now over at first base. But, a great example of a guy that got an opportunity early and has taken advantage of it. And, he's got a good approach for a young hitter and just gives you good, tough at-bats. And, he's really settled in and been a big part of things.
Coach, let me ask you this. Let's back up for a second. You made a comment, which I agree with. 5-game weeks are a challenge. And what that looks like, managing your staff Tuesday, Wednesday, and then also knowing that in the foresight you've got a conference series coming up. But a lot of times in those 5-game weeks, you discover people, or you discover pitchers, or you're forced to use people that maybe you wouldn't have used if it was just a Tuesday game. Did you come out of the week finding out any more about your club or your guys on the mound or somebody in your lineup?
Yeah, and you make a great point, Ty. And that's how you have to look at those weeks. Certainly it's a challenge, but at the same time, it's an opportunity. It's going to present more opportunity for guys. and you're going to find out more about your club. And yeah, we absolutely had some guys out of the bullpen that we were already using, but I think, especially when you look at the Wednesday game at South Carolina, that was a staff day. We knew it going in, and we had some guys step up and pitch really well. So I think more than anything else, we just had some guys really, gain some confidence out of that game.
Well, you mentioned your starting pitching too, and Ty Fisher's 5-2, 3.28 ERA. Thomas Higgins, who made our Sun Belt, starting 9 last week after a great performance, 4-2, 2.93 ERA. And then Mitchell Gross, what a week he had for you in that South Carolina game to close that one out, and then close out one of your wins against Georgia State over the weekend.
Yeah, Ty obviously had a great run for us in 2022, and he'd be the first to tell you, had a frustrating year last year. Probably tried to do too much at times, and he's been more himself this year. He's been outstanding in that Sunday role. Had a tough day yesterday, and that's what I told him, man. You picked us up so many times already through this year. Yesterday was a day where the team picked Ty up, and so that was good to see. And having Thomas Higgins back, Thomas threw some big innings for us as a true freshman in 2022, and we didn't have him last year. He's worked hard to get back and really done a nice job going out and getting us off to a good start on Friday nights. And guys like Mitchell Gross and Ben Johnson, the beauty of those guys is you can do either or with them. They're comfortable throwing out of the bullpen. If you want to give them the ball to start a game, it doesn't matter to those guys. So it's nice to have that luxury. And some new guys like Jacob Phillips, left-handed pitcher, has been really effective for us. Had a tough night Friday night, but was able to bounce back yesterday and close the game out for us. So those guys have been doing a really good job, and it's helped some of the younger guys that we have on the staff, be able to put them in roles to where they can be successful, and there's good leadership there with those guys for sure.
Coach, April, you either getting some guys back healthy, or you've got some guys that are now dinged up, and because the season's underway and a lot of different things transpire, and people sometimes lose sight that just because baseball is not a contact sport, guys do get dinged up and get hurt. Heading down the latter part of the season now, as we're headed towards the playoff part of it, eventually, and your health-wise, you guys in good shape?
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's some guys that are dinged up, but nothing too serious. We went through a stretch. We went about 5-6 games without Jarrett Brown earlier in the year, with a hamstring issue, and been able to get him back. He's still not moving 100%, but certainly has bounced back, and it's nice having his presence back in the lineup and being able to put him over at third base there. Other than that, we're pretty healthy. Still got a guy like Jalen Payton. I don't know. Jalen's coming off Tommy John surgery from last spring. He's working hard, trying to come back. We'll kind of have to see how that plays out. Certainly, that would be a nice boost for our team to be able to get a guy like that back, late in the season. But that's still kind of day to day.
You mentioned Jarrett Brown, man. He has played so much baseball for you the last 4 years. He's got to be tracking towards like a 200-game career at this point. I mean, he's played so much baseball. But I wanted to ask you about the standings. This weekend we hit the halfway point. You got Coastal Carolina coming to your place. Right now you're 8-4. You're tied for second with Southern Miss. And, of course, Louisiana's just out there beating everybody right now. They're at 11-1. But how do you see this Sun Belt race stacking up as we – get ready to move into the second half of the season after this weekend?
Well, there's a lot of baseball left to be played, and as you guys both know, man, a lot can change in one weekend, and you got to be on top of your game every day you show up at the ballpark in this league, and that's what makes this league so much fun. It's so competitive, top to bottom. our schedule has been a grind. I think our non-conference strength of schedule is around 10th right now in the country. So you hope by playing that schedule early, it prepares you for league play, just from the standpoint of your kids knowing every day they come to the ballpark, they got to be ready to go. If we're not on top of our game, we're not going to be in position to win. At the same time, we try to look at it as every day we show up, we have an opportunity to help ourselves because we are playing a good club, and just trying to focus on being as good as we can be every single day, being as competitive as we can be, and hopefully the rest of it takes care of itself.
Coach, you think, because if you go into the Sun Belt, you guys having multiple teams in over the last couple of years, NCAA-wise, most of the teams, if not all the teams, midweeks have always had a great schedule. Do you think that's part of the recipe for the league overall, and why you're having 3 and 4 teams over the last couple of years getting into the NCAAs?
I think it's definitely helped. I think if you look around the league, everybody is playing a tough schedule outside the league, and most of us are fortunate we're in areas where we can play quality opponents midweek. You look at our state, this weekend, the series with Georgia State, playing a Kennesaw State who has a strong RPI, Georgia Tech, Mercer, a solid club. So we're fortunate to have clubs close by. College of Charleston, who we played last week. All those are good teams that are having good years. But yes, I think if you look around the league, I think coaches have tried to schedule tougher and kind of strengthen their schedules, and certainly that helps the league. I think the league has earned more. I don't know if the word I'm looking for is credibility, maybe outside just the region, because we've been able to get multiple teams in for the last couple of seasons, and I think right now we've been 4 or 5. If you look at the conference RPI rating, in the nation, so it definitely speaks to the strength of play within the Sun Belt.
I don't think there's any doubt Sun Belt is a Power 4 or Power 5 conference in college baseball. Our final question for you, as you can see behind me, I'm watching your game there at Clements Stadium, and what a fabulous facility you guys have built and created there and continue to add on to. What did the hosting, since we're on that topic, what did hosting in 2022, hosting an NCAA regional, mean for the credibility and the stature and position and station of your program unto itself, and also for the Sun Belt too?
Well, it meant a lot for both. I know, speaking for our program, it brought more attention to our program for sure. And we've always gotten great support here from, the student body, from the community. One of the beauties of being a college town like Statesboro, but certainly that really generated some momentum here locally and energized our fan base even more. We set an attendance record last year. We're on pace to set another record this year. We had over 3,200 at the game on Saturday with Georgia State, and heck, that's with the local schools on spring break. So, it certainly has helped there. And we've got great leadership here. Our president, Dr. Marrero, Jared Benko, they have great vision for our department. We've got plans to, undertake a $10 million renovation to build a new clubhouse here with, new offices, new locker room, team meeting room, indoor cages, an indoor pitching lab. Some cool things for the fan experience. We added the Yellowwood deck.
I was going to say that Yellowwood deck out there just looks like too much fun.
Yeah. I'm a little envious sometimes looking out there. I know those guys have a good time. But with the new clubhouse, there's going to be a patio area. We're going to have some tailgate spots and even a little bit of a takeoff on the left field lounge at Mississippi State, where our fans will be able to customize some areas right behind our dugouts, and we'll have grills in that area. So, again, the vision of Jared and Dr. Marrero, to constantly work to improve. And if you look around the Sun Belt, some great facilities in our league, and it continues to add to the growth of our league, and certainly the growth of our program. And it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time to be a part of the Sun Belt for sure.
Rodney, thanks a lot for being with us. We really appreciate visiting with you. Can't wait to see your team play soon.
Great seeing you guys, and appreciate what you guys do. We talk about the league and the growth of the league, and what you guys do to bring more exposure to our league and to baseball in the Sun Belt. We appreciate what you guys are doing, and always great to see you guys.
Rodney, good luck, my friend.
Thanks, Ty. Great seeing you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for joining us, our Sunbelt Baseball Podcast. I'm Matt Stewart, Coach Ty Harrington, legendary coach of the Texas State Bobcats, and we look forward to working the Sunbelt Tournament coming up in Montgomery again we're still about 4 or 5 weeks away from that, but looking forward to that. That's always a lot of fun. So what we do here on the back half of our podcast is we name our Sunbelt starting 9. And so instead of just choosing one player of the week and one pitcher of the week, we kind of fill out a lineup card here. And you would think, okay, that's easy. You're choosing 9 guys. No, it's not. Because it seems like, Ty, every week it's different. We might have, seems like this week in particular, we had a big competition of second basemen. We had a lot of guys competing for second base. So we'll go through it here. We'll start with our catcher. And I'm going to go with James Madison catcher, Jason Scavone. He went 3 for 7, couple of homers, 2 RBI, hit his 9th homer on the season. Remember seeing this guy in the tournament, just a big physical catcher, defensively and offensively.
Yeah, and look, a lot of these names, as you're going to, and you're right, but when you start digging and researching from the weekend, I'm just going to stop you right now and say, I'm going to sign this lineup card and turn this one in. And then after sitting there reading these stats with these guys. And so, yeah, no, I mean, look, you've done such a good job of researching what these guys have done this weekend and what they were, the types of weekends they had. And obviously when you go through this, it's going to certainly speak for themselves and the type of players they are.
First base, Georgia Southern freshman Kent Schmidt, and you heard us talking with Rodney Hennon. This guy's been a surprise for him. They didn't know he was going to be this good, but he went 7 for 11, couple of doubles and 3 RBI, 4 runs scored.
For a freshman, it's just not
amazing.
Easy. This league is tough. It is, and for a young guy to come in there and have these kinds of weekends, it creates the success they had this week. That's part of it for Georgia Southern.
Second base, James Madison's Mike Mancini. He's got a 13-game hitting streak, 5 for 12, couple of doubles and 6 RBI for him. Kyle DeBarge, our shortstop from Louisiana. He had 2 home runs, a double, 6 for 11, 5 RBI, had his 3rd multi-home run game, and he's deserving of all the great things we can say about this young man.
Well, you heard what Coach Dick said about him last week. He said this is one of my all-time favorite guys to coach and to watch play. And, of course, we've seen him. And I had a chance again to watch him last weekend too. And he is a tremendous player.
Third base, we've got Abs Austin St. Laurent. Went 7 for 14, a double, a triple, a home run, 3 RBI, 4 runs. So he hit for the cycle for the week. I know that doesn't necessarily count, but it's big. 4-hit game on Sunday. Outfielders, we got James Madison's Fenwick Trimble. He had a big week, 6 for 12, homer, 3 RBI, his 5th 3-hit game. Dalton McIntyre, this guy for Southern Miss, coach, is just a hitting machine. 10 for 15, couple of RBI, had a 4-hit game on Saturday, came back and had a 3-hit game on Sunday.
10 hits is a month for some people.
No doubt.
One weekend. That's a month's worth of April for March for some people hitting wise.
Old Dominion outfielder Luke Waters makes it for the 2nd straight week. He went 4 for 11, a double, a homer, 3 RBI. And the DH is James Madison's Ryan Dooley, 6 for 11, couple of doubles, homer, 3 RBI, 4 runs scored. Slade Wilkes also. We could have thrown him in there from Southern Miss as well. So that's our offensive. That's our batting order, Coach.
You got them in the right positions. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and sign the card and get them into home plate umpires as quick as I can.
Our starting pitchers for the week, Marshall's Bryce Blevins. He had a 4-hit complete game shutout, 9 innings, and 5-0 win over Texas State, man. We just don't see a complete game, 9-inning performance anymore.
It's rare. You'll see one about every second or third weekend or something like that. Somebody will pop through and be efficient with their pitching and be able to get it under 115, 120. That's what it usually takes when you get into a 9-inning game. So, that is rare in college baseball nowadays, any baseball.
Louisiana's Andrew Herman pitched into the 7th in a 4-1 win against ULM. He has the best ERA in the Sun Belt at 1.99. And Billy Oldham for Southern Miss pitched into the 7th, improved to 4-0 in the season in a 5-1 win against South Alabama.
I tell you what, you get that kind of depth out of your frontline guys. Those obviously they wouldn't be on here if they didn't throw good. But shout out to when you get in that 7th and 8th, and you have guys on the back end and the stoppers that can come in and get the last 6 outs or 9 outs need be, which is usually where you start to get into it, or somebody sandwiched in between there. That's so critical and so vital to winning, is having somebody you can piggyback on, which I think you're fixing to talk about some of the stopper part of this lineup as well.
Yeah, stopper. We're going with LP Langevin for Louisiana had another big week, and we could probably go with him every week. But this week we're going to go with Georgia Southern's Mitchell Gross, 4.2, 4 2/3 relief IP, 1 run, 5 hits, 5 strikeouts in Georgia Southern's 5-4 victory against Georgia State. He started the week with 2 1/3 scoreless, hitless innings in relief. He struck out 4 of the 8 batters that he faced against South Carolina. And 22 of the 29 pitches he threw against the South Carolina Gamecocks were strikes.
Well, there's the answer to your equation right there. The 22 of the 29 pitches were strikes. That'll help you, I guarantee, give you a chance to be a stopper in anybody's league if you're able to execute pitches like that and make the types of pitches you have to make. And, look, there's a reason why Georgia Southern had such a great weekend. So on top of that, how about let's just go ahead and put that, Rodney Hennon was the coach of the week. Can we do that? We add that
we
one
can do that too, no
there?
doubt about it. So, yeah, he was the coach of the week. Let's see if he'll be the coach of the week. Real quickly, let's look ahead to the weekend. I think the 2 biggest series are Georgia Southern again. They've got Gary Gilmore and the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers coming to their place. That's going to be a great weekend series. And then Southern Miss is on the road at Georgia State. From a standing standpoint, these are the 2 biggest series matchups, I think, coming into the midweek point of the Sun Belt Conference schedule.
Yeah, obviously from a standing perspective. And then there's some teams I think that are still around at, 6, 7, and 5, 6, 7 wins. They're people can still make moves. People get healthy. There's a lot of different things that can happen. And, certainly if those teams are going to make a move, this is when it needs to happen. And if it can, should happen. And if it will, we'll see.
Well, Coach, had a great time with you again here on episode 2 of the Sunbelt Baseball Podcast. Hope you enjoy your baseball weekend. I know you got a busy one coming up. What you got coming up?
This week I've got Texas State and the University of Texas in San Marcos on Tuesday. Wednesday I go to Austin and do radio, and we'll have Texas and Texas State again. They do a back-to-back series, which has been a lot of fun. They've done it, I think, the last 2 years, 3 years maybe. It's been a lot of fun, so I'll be on both sides of that, and I'm looking forward to it. And then I have a rare weekend off, and I'm going to watch my daughter play sand volleyball this weekend, which will be fun. And then I'm actually going to go watch some high school games as well with some friends and some old coaches that are friends of mine. And so it's not like I'm not going to not have any baseball. I can't apparently get that out of my lifestyle, or don't want to get it out of my lifestyle, to be honest with you. So
you got a big baseball. Got a big baseball weekend coming up. And so I've got Georgia hosting Kennesaw State on Tuesday night, and then I'll have the second and third games, the Friday, Saturday games in the Missouri at Georgia series. And the Missouri Tigers just swept the Florida Gators over the weekend in Columbia, Missouri. So that should be an interesting series between those two. So, Coach, look forward to it. Talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thank you.